4 minutes past you from the studios of Wadabai 8.9 FM in Accra, Ondo State. My name is Dimeji, and this is welcome you to this week's edition of the Roundtable. There's been a lot of talk about the African Continental Free Trade Area Agreement, which was signed recently by President Muhammadu Buhari, and that agreement is to make Africa one big market to benefit all. At the moment, the GDP of Africa stands at $2.5 trillion with a population of 1.2 billion people. This means that this particular agreement, the AfCFTA, will make Africa the world's biggest free trade area. At present, the nation's inflation, I'm talking about Nigeria now, the inflation rate of Nigeria is at 11.4%. That is compared to Africa's inflation rate of 8.5%. Currently, Nigeria accounts for 31% of export from Africa, and Nigeria's GDP is 21.4% of Africa's GDP of $2.5 trillion, while South Africa is next to Nigeria with the GDP of 16%. These are the two countries with the biggest GDP on the African continent. But the reality at the moment is that the GDP of these two countries are underperforming. Nigeria's GDP at the moment is growing at 2%, while that of South Africa is even negative. A quick run through of some of the objectives of this AfCFTA agreement. One is to create a single market for goods services facilitated by movement of persons in order to deepen the economic integration of the African continent, and it accords with the Pan-African vision of an integrated, prosperous and peaceful Africa enshrined in Agenda 2063. I'm reading from the article of the agreement now. This is to create a liberalized market for goods and services through successive rounds of negotiations. That means to remove government control from goods and services. And C is to contribute to the movement of capital and natural persons and facilitate investment building on the initiatives and development in the state parties and regional associations like ECOWAS and all of that. And then to promote industrial development through diversification and rural regional value chain development, agricultural development, and food security. These are just some of the objectives of the agreement, and to achieve this, the countries have agreed that they have to progressively eliminate tariffs and non-tariff barriers to trade in goods. Then 2, to progressively liberalize trade in services and to cooperate on investment, intellectual property rights, and competition policies. This is one of the issues those who are against this agreement, especially the international intellectual property rights part of it. Then to cooperate on all trade-related areas, to cooperate on custom matters and the implementation of trade, to establish a mechanism for the settlement of disputes concerning their rights and obligations, and to establish and maintain an institutional framework for the implementation and administration of the AfCFTA. Well, this one is a big one for Africa, but the question being asked by many people is that what does Nigeria as a country stand to gain from all of this? What does Nigeria have to put in place to be able to benefit immensely from this particular agreement, especially with the fact that Nigeria has the largest GDP on the continent? Well, let me welcome my studio guest, Dr. Funsho Dari. You're welcome on the program.
Thank you, presenter.
He's a lecturer. And let me welcome Mr. Rotimi Ogle. You're welcome on the program.
Thank you very much, Mr. Dimeji.
Okay, let me begin from Dr. Funsho Dari. The AfCFTA, what does it mean for Nigeria and its desired economic prosperity?
Thank you, presenter. It's a good one. The AfCFTA is a good one in that if well implemented, Nigeria stands to benefit. You know, if Nigeria could position ourselves in the Committee of Nations as the giant of Africa, you know. But before we can benefit from AfCFTA, there are many things that we
have to put in place.
You know, the AfCFTA is about the largest free trade area in the world. You know, looking at members in terms of participating countries.
And the population.
Nigeria signed as the 53rd country. So we stand to gain, wide market space and the like. But there are a lot of things that should be in place before we can benefit, so that we don't just end up like a paper tiger.
One of the things that people who are against this agreement have said is that Nigeria at the moment does not seem to have any workable industrialization strategy. And then you look at a lot of infrastructure. There's the energy problem in Nigeria, there's the transportation infrastructure, and then there's the issue of security. All these things are needed to help the real sector of the economy to really grow. Unfortunately, these things are not in place at the moment in Nigeria. How then does Nigeria hope to push out any product? Because people have said that eventually Nigeria could end up becoming a dumping ground for goods and products from other countries.
Yes.
How can Nigeria what can Nigeria do to ensure that the country does not become a dumping ground for products from other African countries?
So many things we can do.
Okay.
Inwards, we have to position ourselves. Our porous borders have to be dealt with, so that we don't have influx of goods from all the seaports, airports, and we end up being dumping ground. Then we have to make sure that we are producing products that has value-added products.
Are we even producing anything?
So that we don't just end up with just merely exporting raw materials, crude, and we'll be buying the processed products. So we end up to a zero. So all those things have to be put in place. Our production and distribution strategies have to be the infrastructure, production infrastructure, distribution infrastructure have to be put in place. Like you rightly said, we have energy crisis. Even common artisans, tailors,
it is very difficult for them
and all that. Before they can do their business, they have to power it by generator and all that. So many firms have left the country because of huge costs on diesel. The Michelins of this world, they relocated to nearby Ghana. Can you imagine? So we need to do put a lot of things in place. The security is a major issue. It's a major issue.
Investment to thrive.
Yes. In a place where you have insecurity, investment cannot thrive. You cannot attract investors. Even look at us, even Nigerians now, to travel. I've been postponing my trip to Common Osun State here for about a month now, relying on phone calls and the like, just because of the risk involved now these days. Headers, kidnapping and the like. So the environment is not safe. And if you have that, how do you now attract investors? It will be difficult.
Let me turn to Mr. Rotimi Ogunleye. In other places, we've seen a situation where the cost of production became too high and manufacturers had to relocate to other places. Even indigenous, I'm talking about indigenous manufacturers now, had to leave their country to go to other countries where the cost of production is low. And now they manufacture products there and then bring back to their own country. We've talked about Nigeria not becoming a dumping ground through this agreement. Energy crisis that we have mentioned is a big issue. One of the things contributing to the high cost of production in Nigeria. How can Nigeria ensure that we do not at the end of the day witness a situation where indigenous manufacturers, even we have to go outside the country to other countries in Africa to produce their goods and then bring back to Nigeria?
Thank you very much, Mr. Dimeji. Well, unfortunately, business runs after where it can thrive, where it can grow, where return on capital will be very high. Either you talk from now...
See what US is complaining now about China.
Yes.
Yeah.
Where factories are going to China.
So either you talk from today to 2099, either you sign AfCFTA or what have you agreement, if those things that will make business
thrive,
comfortable and thrive here, if they are not put in place, there is nothing we can do about it. But one good thing about this agreement is this. You see, there are times when you have to force yourself to work. There are times when you have to create uncomfortable situation so that you can do some things right. Maybe one of the reasons why the agreement is coming to life now is to make our country, or our leaders, so to say, become entrepreneurially sound and business minded. Maybe that is what it's going to achieve. Because if you are trying to talk about African Continental Free Trade Zone Area Agreement, you are talking about having a unified means of transportation first. Before
as we have in Europe.
Yeah, before Europe will come together and say they want to begin to run on one currency, one economic trade agreement, you can board a plane from a particular country in Europe and get to about 24 countries.
Yes.
So it is easier for you to talk about trade agreement in that kind of situation. In Africa, I doubt if you have motorable road that
not to talk of railway service.
You understand? So moving the goods is even another problem. So maybe signing this agreement now can make them think like human beings that we are supposed to be. Maybe signing the agreement will now make us conscious that, okay, if we are not doing this, the technical laxities, the technical incompetencies, the shortfall, the incapacitation of other economy that will hamper the smooth implementation of this agreement must be taken care of. Maybe all these head of states or head of government, as the case may be, will now come together and say, look, we have signed this agreement. It appears because of so and so, we may not be able to deliver this. Can we come together, put resources together, get syndicate loan that will be hinged on a particular infrastructural delivery, so that any money realized from this therefrom will be used to offset the interest, the cost of capital on that loan, and maybe our future can begin to reflect what we actually would have wanted. Maybe all this will elicit these questions from the mind of our leader. Maybe, I don't know. You see, Africa has a way of trivializing big issues like this. When I first read about the agreement, I said it's over ambition. I said this is.
You think it's not realistic?
Yes. In the face of corruption,
so many things are not in place.
In the case of corruption that tries so handsomely in African land. So how do you now think of bringing 53 or 54 countries together?
I think Eritrea is the only country yet to sign.
To have a unified trade protocol, a unified trade agreement. When you have so many countries within the border, within the range of countries that sign, that is facing energy challenges, some insecurity issues, some corruption. Many of African countries do not even run their budget up to 40% in a year. And when you have a country that runs its budget maybe about 30%, it means economically your life grows up to 30% in that year. That's the implication. So we have all this challenge. We don't even prepare good budgets. So we have all of this wahala there. So I wouldn't know, maybe signing of the agreement will now encourage peer review that will now spur others to action. If you must work with this man and you are free-footed at him, then it means you have to wait for him so that you get along. So maybe all other countries will now have to wait for us, provide the technical support, provide the financial support, match their balance sheet with ours so that we can present a very huge balance sheet that can attract good foreign loan. Maybe, so many maybe.
One of the fears of local manufacturers is that the infrastructure is not even in place in Nigeria to even help the manufacturing sector. That at the end of the day, if goods are coming from other African countries, it could even kill the manufacturing sector in Nigeria if so many things are not in place. Do you share that same view?
Okay, I'll give you one very good example. You don't even need to go far. If you are going along Ilesha Road, you turn right, you don't go straight to NNPC side, you see Dangote depot there. Okay. Just go and look at that place. Look at the number of trucks that come to that place on daily basis. Now imagine if we have a very reliable railway system that all the goods that have been transported from Abuja into Akure by all these trucks, numerous, quite a large number of them, can be put in just 2 or 3 coaches of a train and it will be delivered there. Now imagine what...
It is the pressure on the roads.
Yes.
No, I'm coming.
Yeah.
Go and check where the man has his depot. The entire place is bad. The soil, because of the weight of the truck.
Of the vehicles,
So the same way, along the axis, you see that the road there keep having problem. Yeah. So they will have to mend it and continue to mend and mend. So consider the cost of this, the multiplier effect on what we are discussing here. So the truth of the matter is that Africa has huge challenges in almost all the areas except corruption. So if you have all this now, I still do not understand, because you see there are some maybe economic factors, information that may not be available to us. Maybe before now, because they have started the discussion, putting up of the technical draft since 2012.
12 years.
Maybe when they started that, they have probably been doing one or two other things behind the scene that we don't know. If it is what we see on daily basis, if it is what our leaders do on daily basis, if it is what we read on African budget on daily basis, look at the statistics you don't read out here. 2 countries, South Africa and Nigeria, contributed about 40 or 45% of the entire African GDP. Which continent? I mean, how do you explain that? What is our production capacity as a whole, the entire Africa? Have they come together to resolve energy crisis? Have they done that before now? Now look at our country. If you are producing in Ondo State and you want to send to Ekiti State, in the last 6 months, you must have had a lot of nightmare taking your truck through that Ado Ekiti road.
Kidnappers, bad road, and all.
Oh my God! So imagine if you now have a thriving business, a thriving production plant that is good sense like anything, and you now have some kidnappers along that road. They have kidnapped first person, second person, third person. What do you think that will do to the operation? So are you now thinking that despite this agreement, if you have this high level of insecurity in our country, somebody will now think that let me package a business plan, leave Holland, or leave Germany, or leave America, or leave Canada, and come to Ekiti State, or Ondo State where you have timber, or where you have stone of economic value, or where you go to some countries in the north where you have diamond, where you have gold, and where you have all these economic stones. I will now say such a person will now come there. See, I have a client, he's a white man.
Okay.
He narrated how he was attacked. How he was attacked and sustained a gunshot injury. And he had to be flown from here to Germany for that bullet to be removed from near his skull there. That man up to today operates under a very intense fear, and every day is planning a kind of exit strategy.
Yes.
That is
to leave Nigeria.
That is for just
Okay, quickly. Let's now. One of the things that this agreement is going to ensure is that there will be movement of goods and services across African countries. Now, let's talk about Nigeria. Before a country can think of exporting any product, you must have excess capacity. Yes. At the moment, if you look at Nigeria, the only thing that we seem to have in excess is cement. Probably cement and maybe petrol. Petrol, because if you have Dangote refineries, if all of that can come online, then maybe very soon we can also be exporting finished refined.
Please add Gary.
Refined petrol. Now look at Ghana, a country like Ghana that has put in place a policy of one district, one factory. In Ghana, that is in place at the moment. Now, when you now look at Nigeria, we do not have any of these. We hardly have excess capacity in the production of any product. Now, some people have said Nigeria should have waited until we put all of this in place before signing the agreement. Do you agree with that, Doctor?
I do, because we cannot even satisfy the local demand. We can't. Not to talk of now exporting excess, what have you. We can't satisfy the local demand. And the oil has been overflowed. The resources coming from oil has been overflowed. That's been, in fact, there was a professor that wrote on resource cost thesis, CURSC, that the resource, instead of serving as a blessing, is a kind of a cost, So we should be focusing on the non-oil inflows from non-oils.
Do you have excess capacity in those areas? You're saying Nigeria should have waited.
We should have. There are so many things to put in place that are not in place now. We are not even on a level playing ground with all the countries that are in that free trade agreement. You know, for instance, Ghana has started on a better footing than us. Ghana houses the secretariat, and that means there will be a lot of tourism income to Ghana. Our people, you know what they are. They are good in arranging convoys for conferences and all that. They go to Ghana, sleep into hotels for a week and all that. Tourism income to Ghana. So I don't know. We should have. There was a similar one that was signed within the West Africa sub-region that we could not even annex.
ECOWAS.
Yes, that we could not annex the benefit coming there from. So now we move to a bigger one. You know. So it looks bogus. It looks bogus. It looks bogus.
The African Import-Export Bank said that Nigeria has a lot of opportunities from this, that Nigeria could take over from China as the manufacturing hub of the world. Do you believe in that?
That is
if we get our act right.
Yes, if we get our act right, if we can position ourselves as the true giant of Africa, put all these things in place. We have all the resources, we have all the human talent, we have all the personnel, we have people that can turn the economy around, and we have to look beyond this federal character sort of. You have personnel, if they are located in one local government, why not use them? But you now put one, you look for somebody that is barely literate to put in place just to satisfy the federal character stuff. We won't get anywhere.
What are these things, Mr. Ogle, that you think Nigeria, these things we should do to get our act together?
Thank you very much. First thing we should do is that we must run a realistic governance system. I'm talking like a consultant now. Purely. The way we run our economy, the way we run governance in Nigeria does not come near what a realistic governance system should look like. The greatest asset of any nation is its population. It is population because that is the most reasonable, reliable source of income that you can get. For example, the UK economy is run on tax basis. When you talk of tax, you talk of the productive essence of the people. So when you now want to run an economy as big as that of Nigeria, in quotes, and the people are not in the core of the economic planning as regards revenue generation. Instead of that, we emplace oil. Then, ab initio, we have missed it. So we must reorder our revenue strategy. That's the first one. Number two, we must do away as much as possible with freebies. When you put too much subsidy in an economy, it has a way of tinkering with policy of economy to the extent that you will not achieve anything. I'll give you one good example. The intention of the government for introducing subsidy on petrol was very good. The main reason was that, as at that time, to make sure that the citizens enjoy the benefit of that natural resources that God has given to the nation. They will be enjoying it in two ways. One, they will be buying product at lesser price that will keep their disposable income higher. Then two, they'll be getting revenue from it with which they will use to develop infrastructure and or what have you. So that was the intention. But as population grows, as we brought in this unreasonable federal character issue that will make people that are even not qualified to be at the helm of affairs, then they started employing people like them into the civil service. They populated the civil service with people that do not have capacity to occupy public offices. They put them there. They defaced our plan. They did all manner of things that are untoward just to keep themselves on that seat. So we missed it. We redirected our vehicle that is moving on a very smooth economic lane to a path that will not deliver. So that's what we have to do. Then this is very key. This is very, very key. The kind of federal system of government that we run now, we must unbundle it. We must run and practicalize fiscal federalism that will make initiative of states, local government to generate revenue to design their governance structure that will make it come alive. Now, what we have is one line initiative. Local government, state, they have boundaries. They can't think beyond some economic scope because the constitution has so restricted them. So we have to, first of all, do all of this. When we do all of this, it is then you have a liberated economic space that can encourage outsiders, that can bring out the creative initiative of an average Nigerian towards entrepreneur, towards economic productivity. If all these are not there, we're just making noise. I have been in financial consultancy plane now for uninterrupted, let me just say 8 to 9 years. I've seen that the major problem we have is that the system we run can only allow 2% of our entrepreneurship skill to thrive to the peak. As you are growing your entrepreneurship skill, you will see a lot of things that will discourage you, except those ones that the system cannot resist. For example, the way we run our economy will not allow us to capture our financial transaction. If we visit Europe, it is not possible. There's no way you can evade tax. Because financial transactions there are captured. You can increase your cost of sale. If you are telling tax authority that your cost of sale is 3 naira, he will just say, okay, just at the press of button, he will tell you all your transactions in the year. And he will give you the summation. So you must pay appropriate taxes. And in a way, if they are deducted so many taxes from you, maybe VAT tax on consumption, and the one you are supposed to pay is maybe $30, and they have deducted $40. At the end of the year, you get tax refund. The system naturally credits your account. So when you have a system that functions that way, then you have to comport. Then when you comport, there will be real value, real creation of value in the economy. What we run now is rent economy.
But do you see this agreement now making Nigerian leaders, the government, to sit up and put all the things that should be in place?
That is what I've said. That is what maybe it is God that wants to show mercy on the poor Nigerians that is pushing them to sign that agreement. You know, when you create problem for yourself at times, one of my lecturers then, doctor here taught me. Yes, the doctor here.
You push yourself into a problem. You have no choice than to think of solutions.
Yes, create the problem. Yeah. When you create the problem and be in the problem.
Maybe that was why the president was foot dragging on signing the agreement in the first instance.
Yes. So maybe they are creating the problem now, so that when they get into the heart of the problem, they'll be thinking of how to.
Okay, quickly, let us look at some of the implications of this agreement on Nigeria's economy. For instance, if you look at Article 4 sub Article A of the agreement, it states that parties shall progressively eliminate tariffs and non-tariff barriers to trading goods. Now, one area that Nigeria has generated a lot of revenue, especially under this Muhammadu Buhari administration, is from tariffs. Now, the agreement states that Nigeria will have to reduce 90% of these tariffs by the year 2022. Yeah. Now, if you look at the revenue loss in this regard, would you say the agreement is worth it?
Well, that is one of the...
because that's huge money, 90%
yes, that is one of the areas that is worrisome. Because free trade area is all about lowering your trade barriers, tariffs, quotas, so that you can encourage trade, international trade, free movement, free exit, movement of goods and services. But by the time you lower tariff or you reduce tariff,
you're also losing revenue.
Yes, it is even envisaged that the African continent might be losing up to over $4 billion annually from this free trade agreement. That will mean, the social infrastructure will be affected. You know, the standard of living of the people will be affected.
Would the gains from the agreement not make up for that loss?
That is if the economy is well positioned to take that gain. From the way we are looking at it now, the threats look more real than the perceived opportunities. Because if we lower those tariffs, quotas, and all that, straight away, the income generated by the government reduces, and then the ability to even when the so-called revenue is not reduced, we are not getting the so-called facilities, infrastructure from government. Not to talk of when it's now reduced. That will be, the poverty level will increase. And we are looking at the situation whereby this agreement would reduce or cut into the vicious cycle of poverty that we are
create jobs.
We have a vicious cycle of poverty, low capital formation, low savings, low investment, low income, low capital formation, all again. This, if the revenue reduces as we are emphasizing, then the poverty level increases. Now we are seeing so many youths now, contemplating suicide. Who knows whether it's the hardship or whatever could be one of the reasons. We don't know. So we have to look at things that could foster the economy, that could improve the economy realistically, and not. It looks like a bogus project to me, really. And Nigeria might just end up like a paper tiger. You understand? And we'll be at the receiving end, dumping.
Okay. Quickly, sir.
Okay.
If you look at the way God created the earth, He created men in such a way that you must be productive. From your productivity, you create comfort for yourself. So a nation must be productive before it can talk of economic prosperity. What is the productive capacity of our nation?
You're saying this one is like Nigeria building on nothing. There's no foundation.
There's no other words to express it.
Okay. Now you mentioned earlier, you talked about budget and all of that, and this tariff. The African Export-Import Bank also talked about all these fiscal imbalances and all of that.
Okay.
And it says because of it has put in place an adjustment facility of $1 billion, in its words, to enable countries adjust in an orderly manner to sudden significant tariff revenue losses as a result of the implementation of the agreement. $1 billion. Can this do anything, Mr. Rotimi Ogunleye?
It cannot do anything. It cannot do anything, not because of the quantum of the money in the first instance, but because of the structure, because of whom we are as the people. Because I've told you, the only surviving industry in Africa that we find it difficult to close down is corruption industry. It's thriving in such a way that you find it difficult to close it down. So when you have this kind of arrangement, it means, hey my God, what we are saying is this: if you have a system that is faulty, no matter how beautiful idea, no matter how well designed, no matter where positioned,
it won't work.
You put it on that system, you want to run it through it will not work.
It won't.
So what we are discussing here is the current state of our system, governance, and the people that is called Africa. There was a time they were arguing on social media on this issue of xenophobia attack in South Africa. A friend of mine now asked, he said, okay, you are attacking South Africa, you are saying they are attacking your men. You are, of course, some could be, exorbitant, some could be just because they hate you. But are we taking the statistics of people that are attacked and even inquiring into what is actually the problem?
The rationale behind it.
Is it that our guys are doing well? Is it that some are into illicit trade and some activities that is provoking this kind of attack? He said they have been there 20, 30 years ago. We've not heard of this. Is there what could have caused it? So if I'm just citing this example, if we are going to have trade protocol agreement with a country like South Africa and Nigeria, and we have all these elements doing the same thing, illicit activities that they normally do, how do you think they are going to exterminate this? So what we are saying here is a system, a people, and the kind of orientation that we have. We said we should deal with all of this first. When we deal with all of, if you are saying they are if they are saying they are going to reduce 90% of our tariff, and the two of us, South Africa and Nigeria, happens to be the largest contributor to the African GDP. It means we will be taking our products to them, how many of our products do they buy in other African countries?
What are these products? I mentioned cement.
That's the first question. Is it yam? Is it gari? Is it maize?
Even Ghana package is better.
Maybe cocoa.
Ghana package is better. No, Ghana package. I know Nigeria at some point under this administration tried to export yam, but Ghana does better in the sense that Ghana will extract the water from the yam. By the time it gets to Europe and other places, it's still in good condition. I've heard from people. I've heard from people even within this government that when Nigeria tried it, the yam got spoiled before it even got to its destination.
Yes.
Now, if we are struggling,
we lose out exporting raw material.
Yes. Now, if we are struggling to export ordinary yam, as a nation, we are struggling to export ordinary yam. Now, tell me, if we are now coming down on our own tariff, what are we going to export that will get tariff cut? That will make up for the one that
other countries.
So we'll just be losing without gaining anything.
We will.
Okay, now let's talk about bilateral agreements. Some of these countries, some of them are into bilateral agreements with other countries, and one of the things that Article 5 sub-Article K of this agreement says that there must be consensus in decision making. That means you can't enter into any other agreement with other country. You can't go it alone without the other countries being involved. Now, how do you think this is going to work out? For instance, there are so many African countries that they have bilateral agreement with China and all of that. How will this work out with this agreement coming on stream now, Doctor?
It will be contradictory because, like you know, in the Africa sub-region, we have the Anglophone.
It seems there are a lot of issues.
We have the we have the Anglophone bloc. We have a Francophone bloc. There's
SADC. There's ECOWAS. There's so many.
So it's confusing, really. There are so many issues that needed to be put in place. Maybe the government should have done. Maybe orientate the public that this is what they're about to go into, but we need to look inwards. We need to improve on our productive capacity, the local capacity, and the like. Because if we don't do that, we will not get there. We will not get there. And with all those bilateral agreements signed by various countries, how do we now streamline? How do we come to the roundtable? Okay, we want to sign. We signed an agreement with China.
China is building a rail.
Not too long ago. What if
they are still building? China is still building.
They are. It's on. What if most majority of the countries, if they are pro-US, they want to sign and they are talking about us maybe renegotiating with China and focus? Would that work? So there are a lot of cobwebs, in the arrangement. Another
thing that people have talked about is currency adjustment.
Yes,
as it was done in Europe, where they have a single currency, the euro. Now, there are a lot of it talks about budget earlier. There are a lot of fiscal imbalances from one country to another. How can currency adjustment work in Africa?
The free trade area can work well. It's just like an upgrade. When the free trade area is in work, you can upgrade it, and that optimal currency area, you call it optimum currency area or optimal currency region. That's where you have in some 2 or more countries, and you have a common currency. Or you maintain your currencies, but they are linked with a fixed exchange rate. Okay. You have your currency.
But in this regard, will common currency be better?
Common currency would,
because it seems they want to retain their local currencies.
Would actually be better.
Okay.
But the agreement in the optimal currency area or optimal currency region is that you can maintain your currency, but then you have a fixed exchange rate. Okay,
let me quickly read this. The African Bank has launched the Pan-African Payment and Settlement System. That's the first continent-wide payment digital system that is focused on facilitating payment for goods and services in intra-African trade in African currencies. This will make it easy for Africans to pay for inter-regional trade in their local currencies, and we de-emphasize the use of foreign currencies such as dollars in inter-African trade payments. So it seems that they are thinking along the line of retaining their local currencies. Yes.
But then
But which one will be better?
Well, retaining local currencies,
stronger and more competitive.
Now we are talking, before that will work, they have a fixed exchange rate.
Okay.
So with a fixed exchange rate regime, the exchange rate is stable.
Okay.
It will not be fluctuating as the one we have now.
Yes, okay.
So you are now envisaging maybe there will be devaluation, it will fluctuate, it will fall. You have a constant exchange rate that you can work with. But then, even with what we have now, looking at 53 countries, how do we maintain a fixed exchange rate that will be realistic?
You have countries like Libya where government is almost non-existent.
Almost non-existent. So how do you talk to
there are even two governments in Libya.
Oh,
there's one that is internationally
there's
recognized.
One that is recognized.
Yes.
There's one that is more. So it's problematic. It's problematic.
Mr. Gule, which one do you think is better? Retaining the local currencies, do you think that will make the local currency more competitive? Or having a common currency as they have in Europe?
The question is, can they attain common currency? The simple answer is no. It's almost impossible. They cannot attain common currency because if you run a parity assessment of African economy, you find out that you have the two big economies. You have
Nigeria and South Africa.
You have order down below there. So you can't compare the economies.
So it's like somebody who is running and somebody who is crawling.
It's as simple as that. So how do you pair the currency and make it at par? That is the issue. I made reference to Europe. I said before Europe came together under a unified trade agreement, before they could say they want to use single currency. If I'm talking of, if you visit Poland, you visit Germany, you visit Holland, Schiphol airport is a very small airport. It's very beautiful. In fact, there's a particular state in Holland. They do not have oil, but they have the largest number of refineries in the whole world.
Wow.
You understand? It's in Holland. I can't remember the state now. So you have all these countries in Europe that, if you check their economy, it's just neck to neck. Belgium, Germany, Holland, you see all of them coming together. So it is easier for you to sit down, bring their budget, do priority, look at their economy, then agree on a particular unified currency.
So you're saying retaining the local currencies will be better?
It is the only option.
But do you see this agreement helping the other poor African countries?
Yes, like I said, well, it may be. I said create a problem.
Because there was a time Greece was in serious problem, and then it seems
how serious was Greece's problem? Compare Greece's problem
to African problem. To African problems.
So what we are saying here is this. Well, maybe you see at a point, the philosophers call it invisible hand. At a point, maybe the invisible hand is trying to work on our economy. Africa, maybe signing this agreement now, maybe we'll make them wake up from their slumber. And having created the problem, they will now be thinking of how to, make it work.
Sit around and work it out.
Yes, sir, Doctor. Maybe that will make both big African countries and small African countries to benefit. Maybe. Like I said, maybe. It is just, the day has just broke, and I hope as they progress, maybe some things will come in, like you have rightly suggested. Okay, look at Nigeria. So many African countries perhaps have taken loan here and there. Now we are talking to China. China is bringing heavy investment here. When they are bringing their investment, they will come with some trade terms.
Of course.
Sure.
Now, if China and all our African sister countries now that has just gone into agreement with us, if we are now going to deal on the same products, are you going to use different standards? So maybe when they get to that bridge, they will know how to cross it. Maybe that is the reason why God is pushing them ignorantly to sign all these agreements, and maybe that will work in our favor. We don't know.
You said ignorantly.
Well, maybe unconsciously. Maybe unconsciously.
Okay. Now, what do you think the private sector is key in all of this to be able to tap into the benefit of this agreement? What do you think the private sector in Nigeria should be doing now at the moment to ensure that the country benefits immensely from this?
The private sector, they stand to gain enormously if they have the enabling environment, conducive environment to work, the energy crisis if it's resolved, and the transition policies, all right, it's in place that could make for even upcoming infant industry that they could try. They stand to gain. They start to gain and expand their productive capacity, employ more hands. That's one of the emphasized benefit from it. Because if you increase your productivity and they are buying more from your product, then you can hire more hands. You can employ, reduce the problem of unemployment, and they could have value-added products. Because that's the essence. That's where we can really gain, where we have processed products. And within Africa, the restriction would have been removed. Like currently now. In Europe, you cannot. There are many European countries that won't take processed product from us.
From Africa, yes.
From Africa,
but we can sell to other African countries.
Yes. So now with the FTA, with the free trade agreement, we'll be able to sell and maybe export those commodities like
to other African countries, and they will benefit. They will increase their income, their earnings per year, and it will boil down to the local common man, because if you employ more hands and more money in circulation, it will trickle down, to the local masses. But that is when all the necessary things are in place. Yes, that's when they could stand to benefit. Okay, Mr. Ogle, aviation, the banking sector, food processing, these have been touted as some of Nigeria's strengths. And if you look at all of these, aviation, banking, they are mostly in the hands of the private sector. That's why I asked the doctor initially, how do you think the private sector can key into all of this?
Yes, like you have already said, the private sector in Nigeria, given the economic environment wherein they operate, I want to give it to them that they have really tried.
Yeah.
And I want to...
It's not easy to survive in Nigeria.
It's not.
Doing business in Nigeria is as tough as being in a fire. So, the truth of the matter is that if they could have survived, if they could have done this well, I want to believe that if the agreement comes to life and they go through this technical phase to the real trade protocol, yes, I think they are going to benefit. Like Dr. Arali said, though most of our products too, you see them in other African markets.
Yes,
they are there.
The McLeans and the like.
Yes, maybe because of tariff problem and because of this trade protocol arrangement that is not that easy, they may find it difficult to increase their supplies and thereby reduce their turnover. If they cannot increase their supplies to other African countries, it certainly will reduce their turnover. Maybe with this one coming on board now, they can now have easy access to African markets, take their products there and get it right. But there is a but there. So that it will not be as if what happened to the drug industry before the late Professor Dora Akinwumi came to bail us out. An average Nigerian, because I want to reduce this discussion to what my country will benefit from it.
Yes.
And I want to talk about our peculiarities.
Quickly, because of our time.
Yes. An average Nigerian. Let me just say, okay, I don't want to generalize. Some of the producers, when they see that there is market somewhere, you see them begin to do counterfeit products.
Just substandard.
Yes.
Some people have even said that some people could go to Europe, bring in substandard priori, package it, and then sell to other African countries.
So that's why I say our character. That's why I say we first of all need to tighten our system. If we have a captured financial system, it will not allow you to go to Europe, bring face product, bring it here, sell, and of course the people can readily see it. Authority can readily see it as, why are you bringing in this much? So that's it.
And for the private sector, the major threat is dumping.
Okay.
From other countries. It's strategic pricing. You price low, below the normal price, so that you kill the indigenous
industries.
And when they are dead, you increase the price. They don't have any choice other than to keep on buying. So that is the area that has to be worked on.
Thank you very much, Dr. Funsho-Dare, for coming on to this edition of the Roundtable. Thank you very much.
Thank you so very much.
I'm very grateful. And to Mr. Rotimi Ogunleye, thank you very much.
Thank
I'm
you,
very
Mr.
grateful.
Dimeji.
My name is Dimeji Daniels, and this is where we call it today on today's edition of the Roundtable. Thank you for listening.
This is Adaba 88.9 FM. Don't touch it.